Imagine you're, like, sitting in the splash zone at a SeaWorld show.
Oh, yeah, front row, just waiting to get completely soaked.
Exactly. And the dolphins are doing these incredible gravity-defying flips, the crowd's going wild. But what if the secret to that high-flying performance is actually the exact same secret to running a multi-million-dollar corporate empire?
I mean, it sounds like a massive leap, right?
It totally does. But that specific connection is just, well, it's one of the really incredible insights we're exploring today. Welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here.
So our mission for this session is to extract the most critical and surprising knowledge from a highly specific source today. We're looking at a recent broadcast of KISC My Health Radio.
Right, and just for some context, KISC My Health Radio is hosted by Peter Mingils alongside Stephen Lukawski. And Stephen is, well, he's known throughout the natural ingredients industry as the King of Cranberries.
The King of Cranberries, yes, or Captain Cran Man from Planet Cranberry.
Exactly. And these shows are brought to you on Building Fortunes Radio and the Humongous Radio Network. Plus, they're rebroadcast basically everywhere. You know, Amazon Music, Audible, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio.
Yeah, the platform has this massive reach, and they use it to advocate for the natural ingredients business, which is heavily supported by corporate sponsors like Planet Cranberry and Humongous AI Receptionist.
Yeah, and those corporate sponsors really help support the positive messages of the whole natural ingredients business.
Absolutely. So today we are zeroing in on their in-depth interview with Max Willis. And Max is the VP of Innovation and Global Expansion at Grove.
Right, which is an e-commerce aggregator that manages like 16 different supplement brands. I mean, we are talking about an industry veteran with over 25 years of experience here.
Yeah, he's created thousands of products. Okay, let's unpack this, because to really grasp Max's approach, we kind of have to start with his unique origin story.
Oh, definitely. It highlights this massive cultural clash in how we view the human body.
Right. So he was born in Rome, Italy, into a family deeply embedded in medicine. His mom taught pharmacology at the University of Rome, and his dad was a medical student who eventually became a family practice doctor.
And just a quick aside from the sources, which I love, his dad later did his medical residency in New York and actually operated on Billy Joel.
Wait, really? Billy Joel?
Yeah. It's a crazy fun fact. But, you know, growing up between Rome and eventually Utah, Max basically had a front row seat to two fundamentally opposed health paradigms.
Yeah, because in Italy, the cultural focus is not on just extending your lifespan, right? Like simply tacking on extra years at the end.
No, not at all. Max uses this really distinct term, lifegevity. The goal is to ensure those years are marked by mobility, mental clarity, and like deep community connection.
Which you see all the time in the older generation over there.
Exactly. The nanas who essentially run the Italian towns, socializing in the piazzas every day.
And the foundational element of that lifegevity is the food environment. Max draws this brilliant contrast between American and Italian portion sizes and nutrient density.
Yeah, if you look at a massive, overflowing pasta plate at a U.S. chain restaurant like Buca di Beppo, it's huge, but it's often completely nutritionally hollow.
Right. But then compare that to a serving at an authentic Italian restaurant in Rome. The Roman portion is physically smaller, but because they strictly avoid GMOs and artificial additives, the food is incredibly nutrient dense.
So your body actually registers that it has received the necessary building blocks, right? Meaning a smaller portion actually satisfies your biological hunger.
But that lack of nutrient density in the standard American diet, it's basically engineered a systemic crisis here.
It really has. During the interview, Max brings up this chilling statistic from Dr. Pamela Peeke. She's a renowned doctor and former head of a science board. She projects that by the year 2030, over half of Americans will be clinically obese.
Wow.
Over half. Yeah. And the tragedy is how our medical culture is responding to this. Because instead of addressing the hollow food supply, we're seeing this massive reliance on GLP-1 weight loss drugs.
We hear about GLP-1s constantly now, but looking at it through Max's lens of foundational nutrition really clarifies the issue. I mean, a GLP-1 drug essentially mimics a hormone that tells your brain you're full, and it physically slows down the emptying of your stomach.
Right. It's basically a chemical override.
Exactly. It's like, well, taking a GLP-1 without changing your diet is essentially like trying to save a sinking boat by bailing water with a bucket, right? You might stay afloat for a while, but the water just keeps rushing in.
That's a perfect analogy because the Italian lifegevity approach is plugging the hole in the hull entirely with proper nutrition so the water never even enters the boat in the first place.
Right. Or like The U.S. healthcare approach is essentially waiting until the airplane is nosediving into a mountain before yanking the controls, whereas the Italian approach is making tiny one-degree navigational adjustments every single day to enjoy the flight.
What's fascinating here is how Max articulates that exact difference between reactive and proactive health. True medicine has to start with food and daily lifestyle choices.
But in the U.S., medical doctors get astonishingly little training in nutrition, don't they?
Barely any. Their training focuses heavily on, identifying an existing disease state and then prescribing a patented synthetic drug to mute the symptom. But longevity requires you to act proactively.
The challenge, though, which Max openly acknowledges, is that even if you try to adopt that proactive Italian mindset, the modern American food supply is severely depleted of essential nutrients.
Right, which is the whole reality that drives his work in dietary supplements.
Yeah.
Since our food lacks those foundational elements, we literally have to consciously fill the dietary gaps.
And he recommends starting with what he calls the core four, right?
Yeah, the core four. And rather than viewing these as just a random list of pills, it really helps to understand the specific biological role each one plays in patching that hole.
Okay, lay them out for me.
First, Max recommends a daily multivitamin. Think of this as supplying the basic cellular spark plugs, the micronutrients and coenzymes your body needs just to convert food into energy.
Got it. Plugs the basic gaps. What's next?
Second, he emphasizes omega-3 fatty acids. At a cellular level, omega-3s help maintain the flexibility of your cell membranes, and they actively reduce the production of inflammatory cytokines.
Which is critical for both brain and heart health.
Exactly. Third on his list are probiotics, which introduce beneficial soldiers into your gut microbiome to, crowd out bad bacteria and help produce vital neurotransmitters.
Okay, and the fourth one?
Fourth is digestive enzymes. And this one comes with a profound personal anecdote from Max. He actually developed dysphagia, which is an inflammation of the esophagus that made swallowing food physically difficult and painful for him.
Oh, wow, that sounds awful. Yeah. So what did his doctors do?
Well, when he consulted a gastroenterologist, the immediate reactive response was to prescribe a proton pump inhibitor, or a PPI.
A PPI, so that basically shuts down the acid production entirely, right?
Right. The mechanism is to completely shut down the acid pumps in your stomach lining. But Max analyzed his own diet and realized his body was simply struggling to break down highly processed cooked foods.
Ah, so suppressing his stomach acid would actually make the digestion problem worse.
Exactly. So instead of taking the pharmaceutical acid blocker, he went the completely opposite route. He started taking digestive enzymes and HCl, hydrochloric acid.
Wow.
Yeah. By adding the specific chemical scissors needed to cleave and break down those complex macronutrients, he allowed his body to process the food properly. He completely cured his own esophageal inflammation without the prescription drug.
That perfectly illustrates the power of addressing the root physiological mechanism instead of just meeting the pain.
It really does. And actually, during this segment of the interview, Stephen Lukawski, Captain Cran Man, brought up his own methodology for proactive health using natural ingredients.
Oh, right. He advocates for cranberry, but not just as a reactive treatment for, like, a raging UTI. He uses it as an everyday lifestyle mechanism.
Yeah, and the way he uses it is wild.
He physically brushes his teeth with cranberry powder.
He does. And the biology behind why he does it is brilliant. See, bad bacteria in your mouth and your gut survive by building a biofilm.
Like a plaque.
Right. Think of biofilm as a sticky protective glue that bacteria secrete to anchor themselves to your teeth or your tissue. Well, cranberry contains these unique compounds called A-type proanthocyanidins.
That is a mouthful.
Yeah, A-type PACs for short. When you brush with cranberry powder, these compounds act like biological Teflon.
Biological Teflon. I love that visual.
They physically interfere with the bacteria's ability to produce that sticky glue, scraping away the biofilm and preventing plaque and halitosis naturally. Plus, that same cranberry acts as a prebiotic, right? It serves as a high-quality food source that helps those beneficial probiotic strains thrive in your gut.
So what does this all mean? Like, if you're listening to this and you decide you want to build up your own core four, or you want to harness the anti-adhesion power of cranberry, does the bottle you buy actually matter?
Oh, tremendously.
Like, can you just grab the cheapest option off a big box store shelf? Or does the delivery mechanism determine whether it actually works?
The delivery mechanism is the difference between a supplement working and you just flushing your money down the drain. Max is heavily critical of poorly formulated products that ignore human digestion.
Give me an example.
Probiotics are a perfect example. Many cheap brands pack live bacteria into standard vegetarian capsules, right? But the biological reality is that your stomach is an incredibly harsh, highly acidic environment designed to destroy pathogens.
So when a standard capsule hits that stomach acid,
It dissolves immediately. The beneficial bacteria are killed long before they ever reach the colon where they're actually supposed to set up camp.
oh man, so you are paying for live bacteria, but by the time it reaches your gut, you're basically just absorbing dead
Plus
dust.
dead dust, which is why Max champions advanced delivery systems. He pushes for enteric-coated capsules, which are specifically engineered to withstand stomach acid and only dissolve once they reach the more alkaline environment of the intestines.
That makes so much more sense.
He's also a pioneer in liposomal delivery systems. He helped launch one of the first liposomal multivitamins. This technology wraps the fragile nutrients in a microscopic lipid or fat layer.
Because your cell membranes are also made of lipids, right? So the body recognizes it and absorbs the nutrient directly, completely bypassing the harsh digestive degradation entirely.
Exactly. It's brilliant.
Understanding the intense science behind formulation naturally brings up the question of how these complex products actually reach the people who need them. And Max shared a fascinating historical insight he learned from the late Michael McGuffin.
The creator of Zanzi lozenges, right?
He explained that the modern U.S. dietary supplement industry was essentially built by two completely distinct groups, hippies and Mormons.
I mean, the connection to the 1960s counterculture makes intuitive sense, right? The Back to the Earth movement really pioneered the demand for natural living.
Totally. But the Mormon connection explains the actual business infrastructure of the industry, particularly the rise of multi-level marketing, or MLMs, centralized in Utah.
Oh, that's right. Because Max breaks down the logic perfectly here. You have this massive demographic of former Mormon missionaries who spent years undergoing rigorous training in relationship building and teaching.
Right. They had to learn how to walk up to total strangers and essentially sell an abstract, intangible concept like faith.
And when these individuals entered the business world, they transitioned those exact same educational and storytelling skills towards selling tangible, albeit unfamiliar, health products.
They became the ultimate grassroots educators. Because think about it, before the internet, if a company wanted to introduce a completely foreign botanical, say, mangosteen to the American public, they couldn't just put it on a grocery shelf. No one knew what it was or what it did.
Right. So the MLM distributors would sit in people's living rooms, explain the mechanisms, share testimonials, and actually educate the consumer. They built the public's foundational knowledge of natural health.
But Max notes that this landscape is undergoing a massive, rapid transformation now. His current company, Grove, operates almost entirely in the e-commerce space.
Yeah, he readily admits that the local retail health food store is the traditional heartbeat of the industry. That's where human connection happens. Where a knowledgeable clerk can listen to your specific symptoms and curate a specialized remedy.
But e-commerce introduces an unstoppable level of convenience. Max recalls a recent trip to Dubai, where a consumer can literally tap an app and have a specific supplement delivered to their door in 15 minutes.
15 minutes? That's wild.
Plus, e-commerce bypasses the massive retail markups that often price the most scientifically advanced ingredients out of the average person's budget.
This raises an important question, though. We are watching a fundamental shift from human to human education, like the passionate MLM distributor or the veteran health food store clerk, to algorithmic e-commerce.
Yeah, and an AI algorithm recommending a vitamin bundle doesn't care about your specific longevity. It's purely optimizing for conversion rates and search terms.
Exactly. This shift places the entire burden of critical thinking squarely on you, the consumer. You now have to decipher the clinical data, verify the purity, and check if the probiotics are enteric-coated yourself.
So guiding a company through such a chaotic transition, from retail shelves to AI-driven aggregators, it requires a highly adaptable leadership style. Which brings us to Max's approach to management. It's rooted in what he calls servant leadership.
Right, which basically means stripping away corporate ego, rolling up your sleeves to understand the granular work your team is doing, and intentionally hiring people who possess expertise that you lack.
Which brings us back to the dolphins at SeaWorld. Max realized early in his career, while observing animal trainers, that the dolphins inherently know they are going to receive their bucket of fish at the end of the day, regardless of their effort.
Yeah, just by showing up and swimming in the pool, their basic needs are met. The fish is their paycheck.
But the dolphins that execute the spectacular high-flying flips, they do not do it just to secure the fish. They perform at that elite level because of the active intentional engagement from the trainers.
The specific whistles, the targeted hand signals, the physical, attaboy pats.
Right. And Max translated this directly to managing a corporate team. A paycheck only buys presence. If you want your team to innovate, to solve complex supply chain issues, or to invent new liposomal delivery systems, they require clear direction, active recognition, and the emotional space to take ownership of their work. They need an attaboy to do a flip.
I love that. And Max demonstrates this by relentlessly pursuing new knowledge himself. He shared a story about being a 35-year-old executive on a beach vacation in Cancun.
Oh man, this story.
Yeah, instead of reading a thriller or just relaxing, he was sitting on the sand intensely studying Suzanne Summers' book on bioidentical hormones.
Just light beach reading.
Right. But he realized he needed to deeply understand the biological mechanisms of women's health and menopause to formulate better products for that demographic. He is constantly scraping away his own mental complacency.
He's also remarkably transparent about his failures, which is really refreshing. He talked about formulating an incredibly over-engineered vitamin E supplement early in his career.
Oh yeah, from a biochemical standpoint, it was a masterpiece. It contained all 8 distinct chemical forms of the vitamin, all 4 tocopherols, and all 4 tocotrienols.
It is basically the perfect biological reflection of nature.
But because extracting all those compounds is incredibly difficult, the bottle costs $38, and absolutely no one bought it.
Nobody. It was a flawless scientific product that completely ignored the economic reality of the consumer.
And Max actually quotes Winston Churchill on this, stating, "Success is going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm."
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because I have to challenge that application a bit. In the Silicon Valley software world, move fast and break things is the standard operating procedure. But when you are operating in the dietary supplement industry, you are dealing with actual human ingestion, biology, and safety. Isn't fostering a corporate culture that encourages failure fundamentally dangerous when public health is on the line?
That is the exact critical boundary that Max draws, and it is a vital distinction. When Max advocates for embracing failure, he is strictly referring to failure in the marketplace, not failure in the laboratory.
Right, okay.
He maintains uncompromising, rigorous testing protocols for ingredient identity, purity, and safety. You do not experiment with whether a product is toxic. The failure he encourages is the courage to innovate business models or to risk capital on a highly advanced $38 vitamin E formulation knowing it might flop financially.
Right. It's about taking calculated risks to push the boundaries of delivery systems, not gambling with the end user's safety. It's the difference between taking a risk on the marketing and taking a risk on the microbiology.
Precisely. And to ensure that the next generation of innovators knows how to navigate that boundary, Max stresses the absolute necessity of mentorship.
Yeah, and during the broadcast, Stephen Lukawski actually echoed this by sharing his own origin story. He was mentored by Willy Pulser, a German immigrant who essentially pioneered the modern granola and sports nutrition bar industry.
Yeah, just by observing the dietary vitality of horses fed on oats. It's amazing.
Willy didn't just give Stephen a job, though. He opened up his facility, shared his institutional knowledge, and proved that if you can conceptualize an idea safely, you can physically build it.
Mentorship is the mechanism that transfers the legacy of strict safety protocols while simultaneously encouraging daring innovation.
Well, we have journeyed through some incredibly dense and fascinating territory today. We started by dismantling the reactive nature of modern healthcare, comparing the sinking boat approach of GLP-1s to the proactive, hole-patching philosophy of Italian lifegevity.
We explored the biological necessity of the core 4 supplements and the critical importance of ensuring they actually survive your stomach acid.
We traced the quirky grassroots history of how MLMs educated the public all the way up to the modern era of algorithm-driven e-commerce. And we capped it off with a masterclass in dolphin-style servant leadership.
It really serves as a comprehensive blueprint, not just for optimizing your physical biology, but for engineering a resilient, innovative business.
A huge reminder that the source of today's insights is KISC My Health Radio. KISCO stands for Keep It Simple Circle, though Stephen prefers the slightly more energetic Key Influencers Super Champions.
Definitely more energetic.
Hosted by Peter Mingils and Stephen Lukawski on Building Fortunes Radio, it is an essential listen if you want to understand the forces shaping the natural health world from the legacy leaders themselves.
Absolutely. And as we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final concept to examine in your own life. We spent time detailing how physical biofilms, that sticky protective glue created by bacteria, build up in our mouths and digestive tracts, and how active ingredients like cranberry serve to scrape them away.
Right.
But I want you to consider the invisible, corporate, and mental biofilms we allow to accumulate in our daily routines. The creeping complacency, the comfort of doing things the way they have always been done. If you realize you are just treading water in the pool, waiting for your predictable fish at the end of the day, what is the new piece of knowledge you need to acquire tomorrow? What mental biofilm do you need to scrape away so that you can finally execute a flip?
That is an incredible challenge to walk away with. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Stay curious, stay proactive, and we will see you next time.